Hello and welcome to the latest Netcore Masterclass, Exploring the Rich Messaging Revolution. We have got a great session in store for you today. I'm joined by three subject matter experts who are going to dig deeper into the opportunities and the challenges presented in this very dynamic space at the moment. James Brown, Strategic Messaging Partnerships at Infobip, David Fernandez, co-founder at deCH.at, and Louis Moynihan, founder at Messaging Advisory. Gentlemen, maybe just let's spend a minute here for some quick self-introductions. James, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what you're doing now.
Thanks, Nick. So James Brown, I have been at Infobip around two and a half years now, but I've actually been in the messaging space the chat and messaging space for a couple of decades. And for the last 7 years, as brands and the market has started to shift from web chat to asynchronous messaging, I've managed relationships with Apple, Google, and Meta, really globally starting to take to market these rich messaging solutions.
Love it. James, thanks for joining us today. David, thanks for joining us today. Co-founder at deCH.at. What's deCH.at do? Tell us a little bit about that and where you're coming from.
Yeah, I mean, it's like deCH.at is the next generation of conversational AI type of experiences for messaging apps. So that's what we're building. And the reason I'm here is because my background has been in the telco space. One of my first jobs was connecting a bank with SMS. And my last 7 years, I've been spending my time working with Meta in WhatsApp as well as with Google RCS. So I would say that probably has to say some words about it.
Excellent. Yep, would say so. And Louis Moynihan, thanks so much for joining us today. Tell us a little bit about Messaging Advisory and what you've been up to.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Nick. Really appreciate it. I'm Louis Moynihan. I've been in the conversational AI space for the last 7 or 8 years, 6 of those years inside of WhatsApp, running a product innovation team there. And I typically am in the intersection of product and bringing these experiences to life inside of chatbots and WhatsApp APIs, etc. I'm founder of Messaging Advisory, which is obviously advising companies on how to build products on these APIs. And I also am a founder of a software startup also on the WhatsApp API. Thanks for having us, Nick.
Love it. Real pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. And these are exciting times. James, maybe kick us off. Why are these such exciting times?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Nick. So we're going to be talking today about what we feel is the perfect storm. That's a set of unique conditions in North America that is going to really affect all US brands and those who jump on board and ride the wave. It's going to give them a competitive edge in 2024 and beyond. And as we talk through the presentation today and go through the discussions, we haven't got an agenda as such. It's more of a look at the catalysts that are going to drive this perfect storm. So you're going to hear us talk about the end of messaging fragmentation, eliminating app fatigue, digging into the proven results of rich messaging around the globe, going under the covers of conversational AI, and introducing the conversational nurturing, the rise of conversational nurturing. And if any of those phrases are new to you, don't worry, by the end of this, you'll have a good understanding of each and how they are really going to impact you as a brand and enable you to really drive your bottom line. So let's take a look at the end of messaging fragmentation in North America. Before we do that, actually, I'm going to start by taking us into, you guys, it wasn't doing so, sorry. So the end of messaging fragmentation in North America. And before we discuss this, I want to take us and talk a little bit about SMS. So are your customers seeing the real you? If you think about it, if you are sending marketing messages out to your customers, chances are, like every brand, these messages are arriving on the customer's devices from a number they don't recognize. And if they look at it, it's just a text message with blue hyperlink in it. And if you look at the description here, it says SMS circa 1999. If you think about it, that's not entirely accurate because phones have changed an awful lot over the years. They're not even really phones anymore. They're devices. They're mini computers that we carry around. So phones have changed a lot. The technology's changed a lot. The way we use our devices has dramatically changed. But SMS has stayed the same. When we receive these messages, they are just that plain text. Now, what we're going to see with rich messaging is something totally different. With rich messaging, we have a real experience. So when these messages come in, we're going to see branding. We're going to see a verified experience. We're going to have things like rich cards with buttons. We're going to have carousels so we can actually browse and look at products. It's even the ability to purchase within the conversation, actually check out there and then and pay. Even further than that, as we make our purchases and we continue to navigate the conversation, we've got the ability to tap versus type. So using these rich features. So it's a very different experience from the very brand kind of stuck back in the 90s experience of SMS to the rich messaging experience. And we'll talk a lot to you today around the benefits of rich messaging versus SMS. So onto the fragmentation. If you look at the countries that are highlighted in light orange here, these are countries that have begun the journey, or in some cases almost completed the journey, of moving away from SMS as a brand to consumer, and even a consumer to brand method of communicating. And they've been able to do this and move away from SMS because there are ubiquitous messaging apps or large-scale messaging app adoption in those regions from consumers. So if you think about it, if you take a look at some of the statistics from LATAM, in most countries down there, WhatsApp is mid or high 90s in terms of adoption of the population. It's a very different story in North America. So in North America, we don't really have an app, a third-party app that everyone uses. And it's just the way the market has evolved out here. So it's this fragmented market in North America. And that's evidenced by the way you interact with your friends and family. If you think about it, if you're on an iOS device, you use the Messages app. And if you're on an Android device, you use the Android Messages app. And you even see that happening when you're messaging someone from an iPhone to an Android. You see the different colored bubbles. iPhone to Android is a green bubble. iPhone to iPhone is a blue bubble. But this is changing. So if we take a look at how the market is starting to shift, one major thing is happening right now, and that's iOS 18. Most smartphones in the US, and globally actually, but in the US, will support RCS messaging. Looking at a statistic from Statista here, in 2025, 341 million smartphone devices will be active in the US. And the vast majority of those then will be supporting RCS messaging. Suddenly, the fragmentation problem we have with messaging channels in North America, brand-to-consumer messaging channels, that goes away. And even in 2024, when iOS 18 is going through its ramp-up curve, it's starting to be adopted, and the networks are kind of lining up as well behind RCS business messaging, even in Q4, we're going to see around 30% of the population in North America that we can reach with this new rich messaging channel. So let's pivot a second away from the defragmentation. I want to talk a little bit about apps. App fatigue is something that has really hit our day-to-day lives. And I would say it has started really in 2020 or around that time, where QR codes started to really come into their own and become popular. When you were going to restaurants or you were going out and about, and touchless was the new thing, QR codes were everywhere. And there's not a conference you go to or a place that you sit down at that doesn't have a QR code that you can scan and interact with. And in most cases, those QR codes are actually linking you to apps, whether it's a gas station, whether it's electric charging, whether it's a loyalty program for an airline or even a supermarket chain or fast food restaurant. Apps are everywhere. And if we downloaded every single one, we end up with this kind of situation. Now, this is actually on my phone, and I enabled, for the purposes of this, I enabled notifications on all the apps, a lot of apps that I don't even use that regularly. So I'm getting all these messages coming in, and in truth, I ignore them. The ones I pay attention to are the ones coming from the Messages app. That same Messages app that is now subject to defragmentation, the one we're all going to be seeing these messages or rich messages from. So what's interesting is here, when we look at this, not only do I pay attention to these messages, but when you start using as a brand a rich messaging channel like RCS, the consumers immediately know who you are. Even from the notification, I'm going to see, okay, one of these is from Info Audio, one of them is from Radiant Skin. And when I go into my Messages app, I'm going to see the same thing. And as consumers, we're going to see more and more now our inboxes lighting up with brands versus 10 DLC numbers or short codes that we don't recognize. So just to recap on that, if we think about it, SMS is dull. It's stuck in the past. Unlike our phones, it hasn't evolved. And your consumers, they're likely very fed up with just receiving messages from you from numbers they don't recognize that are just the same over and over again. And likely the reason they're opening them is just to mark them as unread. Whereas what we have with rich messaging is not only the ability to engage, provide links, get people actually opening the messages because they want to interact with a brand that they recognize, but also we can support all stages of the life cycle, whether it's brand and product discovery, whether it's consideration and purchase, right through to post-sale service and upsell. What we're essentially creating here as brands is a fourth digital real estate. You have your apps, yes, you have your websites, you have social media, but are customers going to them on a daily basis? Are they looking at notifications that come in? Are they clicking on links and going to your website daily? No, but they're reading messages daily. And that is why conversational messaging is so important. So David, I'm going to hand over to you. I know you're going to take us through a couple of experiences and also talk about the results of those. You, David.
Okay. Thank you, James. As Jess has mentioned before, we are looking at the paradigm of traditional messaging to become a conversational experience, and that can be applied at every single stage of your customer's journey. So let us show you an example of a company called Radiant Skin, which is a retailer that works online and offline. Can you go, James, please? So here we're going to see an experience that Infobip has already been building in collaboration, in this case with Google, using Google's AI technologies, where we're going to see all the type of experiences that any user and business will have when it comes to RPM. So one of the things that you can do definitely is like using this for marketing programs, but it's going to be more interactive because in the end, you're going to see the real images of the product. You can interact with the channel and you can make decisions, even the possibility to log in as well as make purchases. And once you get into the purchase, you can end up and close the loop by eventually continuing the conversation between you and your customers. Like, for example, sending coupons that can be added to wallet. So based on that, you can do way more things, not yet sending product updates and particularly enabling conversations. In this case, what we are going to see is how you can connect the channel with conversational AI, and particularly through generative AI, you can have a much more natural and human-like as well as personalized conversation with your customers that can lead into the decision to choose the right product for your customer at the right time, right? So that's what you can see here, for example, in this example. So other thing that you can do is connect the world online and offline, as well as finding products in the map, getting new updates of deliveries, as well as many other opportunities to think about how you can engage with your customer across their entire journey. So here is clearly a way of different type of experiences through the entire journey between your customers, your brand, and you can see different examples from the discovery of products, from engagement, from buying, as well as connecting the dots and driving the engagement. So why this is important? This is important because we are moving and shifting from a very old-fashioned traditional channel, already James mentioned about it, to a much more richer engagement channel. And why this is important? For several reasons. One is because when it is branded, two, when it is verified, and three, when it is secure and, by the way, measurable too, and we can talk about that later, you can have real business impacts. We have seen already in the market clear examples when brands like only doing apples to apples comparison, much more better business outcomes, from 3 to 10 times better conversion rates, for example. And the main reason is because, can you go next slide, please? And the main reason is because when a consumer sees the verification and sees the brand, the first thing that they see is like they see confidence. So they are more confident to engage with the brand. They have more preference to use verified messages as well as branded messages. And in more extent, they will engage more. So this is a clear way on how users will see a better engagement opportunity to connect with you as a brand. And that is one of the critical factors of understanding and considering this channel. So we already have some examples, and going to the next slide. So we can see, for example, a bank. This has happened in some of the key markets where messaging is very powerful. So a bank did an experiment by running their traditional SMS campaign and exactly the same campaign using RCS without any change. The only thing that you can see here is the image because it is rendered through the link. But only with that, what they got is 4 times better business outcomes and better engagement rates from the consumers. And it was exactly the same user base and it was exactly the same message. It was exactly the channel. The only difference was one was SMS and the other one was RCS. One more important point is that you as well can measure the impact of your campaigns. And that is something that is going to be very critical as a marketeer or as a business owner, because you can start seeing how many people are reading your messages, how many people are interacting to your messages, and how many people are going to take an action. So here we have another example. This is a major bank, Banco Santander, a very famous one in Spain, in Brazil, in Mexico. In all the markets, they already launched the campaigns, and by doing the implementation of RCS, they saw in this case 3 times better engagement rates in RCS compared to SMS. And said this, obviously the future is an evolution from just the traditional messaging, as you can see here, to a much more advanced and conversational experience that is going to be empowered with AI. So Louis is going to explain to us exactly what that means as what is going to be the real impact in that front.
Thanks, David. Really appreciate it. It sounds like RCS is allowing brands to go from one-way SMS to much richer one-way, and also allow brands to transition from one-way SMS to not only richer, but two-way conversations. Would you agree? That's awesome. That's really exciting opportunity in North America. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about AI in North America. I have spoken with brands all over the world on WhatsApp conversational AI implementations over the last 8 years. I've also spoken with brands in North America, and what I've noticed is brands in North America have a slightly different problem that they're trying to solve, which is white collar labor costs are incredibly high in North America, and they're doing everything they can. They've done a lot of layoffs in the last couple of years, and now they're actually deploying Gen AI tools across all functions within an enterprise to bring down those labor costs and make all those functions actually more efficient. And I hear this over and over again that that's where kind of Gen AI is being applied in this country. If we move to the next slide. So I have seen Gen AI being applied to sales functions where internal and external sales teams are prompted by Gen AI for the next best action on real-time phone calls or within emails, and creating content and making the sales process more efficient and actually more personalized for the prospect as well. I've seen the same happen in marketing. Gen AI has been applied to marketing tools to create advertising, to create copy, to create social media. And it's those tools are adopting Gen AI at a ferocious speed, and marketers in North America are using it. Same with customer service and support. However, here, conversational AI and Gen AI specifically is actually being applied to the human agents, where human agents are being nudged as to what information the prospect or customer might benefit from, whether it's on the phone or in a web chat, summarizing the conversations and storing it back in CRM. And Gen AI is playing a huge role with human agent productivity. However, in North America, I have not seen a lot of conversational AI where it's customer facing. So there's not a lot of chatbots on Apple WhatsApp Messenger in relation to the quantity of chatbots that are on those channels in the rest of the world. Last but not least, the analytics and business intelligence is an area in North America where Gen AI has been applied, is being applied. It's a very rich area, and you can imagine the ROI and benefits you can get from generating answers to complicated and disparate data. So there's I would say, a mass kind of evolution and revolution in that area too. But you have to ask the question though, why is it that the rest of the world is using Gen AI with customer facing use cases on these over the top channels like WhatsApp and WeChat? And I think the answer is user adoption. There's 3 billion users on WhatsApp globally. And so if you're a business in Brazil or Germany or India, you don't have to be told that you have to use WhatsApp to message your customers. You know 90% of your customers are there and you have to do it. And that is not the case in North America. And I'll get into that in a second on the next slide. So James has already brought up the idea that in North America, we are a Android and Apple country. Approximately 60% of citizens with smartphones are on iOS and 40% on Android. And that can fluctuate, and you can debate the percentage points, but it's around those percentages. Now, my family is a Apple family, and I am not allowed message my wife and kids on anything but iMessage. If you're an Apple family, you're an Apple family. If you're an Android family, you're an Android family. And friends to friends messaging is where all of this starts. So if friends to friends are messaging on Apple, then the question is, why are we not messaging businesses on the Apple API? Because that's what's happening in every other country where that dominance exists. And I think the answer to that question is, Apple has been somewhat restrictive in offering the API to just anyone. There are kind of rules and regulations and gates that you have to get through to get on the Apple API, and it's Apple Messaging for Business is what that API is called. And I know what that feels like. When I was a WhatsApp employee, we launched WhatsApp API in August 2018, and it also was restrictive for a few years. We couldn't just open the doors and let everyone in. So there is a cadence to how many companies can jump on the Apple API. But my point here is, if Apple is dominant in friends-to-friend messaging and family-to-family messaging, then it goes without saying that the businesses will follow eventually. And of course, Apple is working on it. What is the most interesting point here is that if in September, if Apple allows RCS to work on iOS devices, this map of Android and Apple turns into one logo, which is RCS. And that is a huge opportunity for every brand in North America, because your one-way messages become richer and become two-way. And David has already shown you what those results look like. And so the last thing I'll say on this slide is fragmentation. We are in a fragmented market in North America. We have Messenger, we have Instagram Direct, we have WhatsApp at about a 25% penetration rate and climbing. We have Apple and we have Android messages. It is an incredibly fragmented market. And this is what we're talking about. We think this market is about to be defragmented, and we think RCS is one of those tipping points and one of those catalysts that can do that. We'll move to the next slide. So moving into conversational nurturing, and we'll spin right into the next slide, where I'm going to take some learnings from the email marketing industry and something that Netcore knows a lot about. And I was involved in this industry myself. Email was the most dominant new channel when the internet first started. Like in the early 2000s, anyone who had an email address was only getting about 10 emails a day. But as the internet and websites evolved, matured, and proliferated, everyone had an email address to the tune of 7 billion emails for every human on the world. And so this new channel called the internet, or this new protocol and surface of the internet, had this communication protocol called email. And friends to friends started using this email, and eventually businesses followed. And businesses will always follow the eyeballs. Whether it's Facebook starting in a college dorm and ending up taking over the world where everyone's on Facebook, businesses will follow. If Google has all the eyeballs in the world, businesses will follow and do Google AdSense. Email was the exact same. I think by 2018, Adobe bought Marketo, and Marketo was definitely one of the remaining leaders that had not yet been acquired. And so when that happened, every major software cloud had made at least 2 email acquisitions in that period. Why? Because all the eyeballs were there, all the customers and consumers were there, and the business followed those eyeballs. What did marketing automation do? Marketing automation typically created trigger-based campaigns, created a customer journey, and said on day 1, day 2, day 6, day 30, a email will be sent out with a certain subject line, certain content, certain call to action, etc. And over a period of time, a business could nurture a prospect. Now, this is very much on the B2B side, but it's also for long purchases in B2C and high value purchases as well. And so marketing automation was essentially email nurturing. That's really what it is. And now we're entering in this exact same period where in the rest of the world, they've already pivoted into conversational AI, conversational commerce, conversational advertising with click to WhatsApp ads. Everything is done in WeChat in China. You cannot hail a cab without having WeChat. And so everything operates in these super apps, including nurturing. And the trend is pretty obvious. The marketers and the companies like Netcore, who have a world-class marketing automation email nurturing system combined with world-class conversational AI tooling that Infobip has across WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat, RCS, etc. You put those two things together, and it is essentially the roadmap for how to conduct business in the next 5 years. And with that, I'll pass it back to Nick.
Louis, I love it. I love it. And it's happening right now, right? It's happening now. It's happening whether you're paying attention or not. It's coming, from Asia and from Europe and from South America, and businesses who aren't paying attention, risk really being left behind now. So a lot of great stuff, gentlemen. Less fragmentation. We're coming together. App fatigue, which as James pointed out, is a real thing. Now with kind of more rich messaging, conversational experiences, we can battle it. David, I think you said earlier up to 10x results we've seen today, which is phenomenal, which mirrors a lot of the stuff that we see when we turn email into a rich messaging channel through interactive email, inbox commerce, and AMP, and those sort of things. Conversational AI, it's not just something that's out there aspirational. It's here now, and an opportunity to take advantage of, and nurturing through these enhanced, deeper customer engagements is a real opportunity for all of us as brands and marketers. Gentlemen, really great stuff today. Just to close it out, maybe across the board, James, some closing thoughts for the audience?
Yeah, I just think it's a very unique time. And as I said in my initial introduction, I've been around the chatter messaging space for a couple of decades now. I've been working with rich and asynchronous messaging and for 7 years. And what's become really obvious is it's just never really taken off in North America yet. And it really comes down to all the things you've heard about today. And the time is now. And if you are not jumping on this immediately, and it's not even a big shift, it's just start using the channel, start switching away from those legacy SMS messages, those simple messages, switch across to the richer channels, in this case specifically RCS. And that then allows you to build everything that you've heard about today, those enhanced results, the conversational AI, the nurturing that Louis was talking about. It's a really exciting time.
No, absolutely. Louis, some closing thoughts?
Yeah. One of the biggest questions we get is, this is awesome, but how do we get started, and where the hell do we start, right? And it's a problem in North America that is different than other countries, because if you're in Brazil, that's obvious. You start with WhatsApp because it's a dominant channel. So I think, where do you get started? I'll just throw out a few ideas before I pass it on to David. If you're doing one-way SMS today, think about doing richer one-way on RCS. Think about doing two-way SMS by using RCS. So I would encourage you to start there. If you have, like most other brands, 60% of your user base is on iPhone, talk to Apple, talk to Infobip to get onto Apple, because it will address 60% of your customer base. If 25% of your customer base speaks Spanish and are on WhatsApp, talk to Meta and talk to Infobip and get on the WhatsApp API and start there. There are lots of places to start, and I would end with start anywhere.
Love it. Love it. Makes very good sense. David, close us out.
Yeah, definitely. I would say don't be shy. I think that there is an opportunity for you to learn. This is not like global reach. I mean, but this is like the digital world that you're used to do when you run campaigns in Facebook or in Instagram or in TikTok. You're gonna find different audiences, as Luis has mentioned, and it's a great opportunity for you to start building the future by creating it yourself. You're gonna learn a lot. And by the way, it's not difficult to migrate from SMS into channels like RCS. There are different stages that you can do, and we can talk about that, like from moving from basic SMS to basic RCS is only one step away, and then you can potentially grow over time and getting into a much more complete conversational experiences. It's probably is what we all are aspiring, no, by combining the conversational aspects of channels like RCS or eventually WhatsApp with generative AI. That's where the future sits, but you have to start now.
I think one thing that's really interesting, David, is I know we've worked on this and with brands a lot, is RCS doesn't require a different opt-in list. If you have customers that are, consumers, users that are opted in already to receive your messages, it's essentially a flick of a switch. You don't have to gain any additional opt-in or put out any additional language to switch to using rich messaging.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, I would say, to some extent.
It's a no-brainer. It's a real opportunity, and increasingly, customers are going to be demanding these richer experiences, and we got to be focusing on the customer. David, Louis, James, thank you so very much for your time today. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.